Let's solve 2x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. Here I have a quadratic equation set equal to 0, which is the ideal situation. Now, the first thing we want to try is to factor. If it factors, that's best case scenario. The leading coefficient here is prime, just 2. So if it did factor, the first factor would start with 2x, and the second factor would start with an x, because the only way to get 2x squared is 2x times x. Then we need to think about the different ways we can multiply to get negative 6, and make sure that when we substitute those possibilities in, that when we check the outer and inner pieces, that we're going to end up with minus x. So here, how do we multiply together to get negative 6? It's a combination of either 2 or 3 or 6 and 1. So let's try 2 and 3. Let's see. I don't want to put 2 with this factor over here that already has a 2, because then that means that I could factor out the 2, and then that's not the correct factorization, because not every term up here has a 2 in it. So that's kind of a nice, helpful tip. So since we're going to try 2 and 3, the 2 has to go with the x, and the 3 would have to go with the 2x if this were going to have a chance at being correct. And now we just need to think about the signs. So the outer is going to end up being 4x, and the inner is going to be 3x. I want a negative x, so that means I'm going to want the 4x to be negative and the 3x to be positive. So it turns out that it was a combination of 3 and 2, not 6 and 1, because here, again, outer is minus 4x, inner is plus 3x, and that's going to give us that minus x. And then we can set each factor equal to 0. So 2x plus 3 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0. I can subtract the 3, divide by 2. So one solution is negative 3/2, and the other is positive 2 when I add that to the other side. So I have negative 3/2 and 2 as my solutions. Now we want to try to solve x squared plus 2x equals 6. This is a quadratic equation, but we need to get it equal to 0 in order to start to solve it. So I'm going to subtract the 6 to the other side. So x squared plus 2x minus 6 is equal to 0. And I would try to factor, but I'd quickly recognize that there's not two numbers to multiply to give us negative 6 and add together to give us 2. And that's how we would try to factor this one, because the leading coefficient is 1. So the only way to get a 6 is a 3 and a 2, and a 6 and a 1, and there's no way to add those together to somehow get 2. So if it doesn't factor, then we can go ahead and move on and try the quadratic formula. But the go-to should definitely be factoring, because the quadratic formula looks like this. So here we have x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all that's underneath the square root, and then all of that is over 2a. So we need to collect the values of a, b, and c from this quadratic. A is the number in front of x squared, so a is 1. B is the number in front of x, so that's 2, and c is the constant, so that's negative 6. And so we substitute those into this formula, so we have negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 6, all over 2 times 1. So negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 24, all over 2. So negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 28, all over 2. And 28 is 4 times 7, so that means we could take the square root of 4, which is 2. So this is negative 2 plus or minus 2 rad 7 over 2. And the 2's divide out. So we have 2 over 2 and 2 over 2. So this becomes negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 7 all over 1, which is just negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 7. So that's two different answers that are my solutions to this original quadratic equation. And quick warning, as I mentioned, we have to move everything over and set it equal to 0. I cannot factor out the x on the left and then try to set each factor equal to 6. This is a mistake that sometimes students tend to make, but in order to solve a quadratic equation of this form, I'm going to have to subtract the 6 to the other side.